At the end of time, the sky is dark in the horizon. The wind howls with the gentle crashing of the waves. The cliffs on the side of the beach mark the threshold. What lies beyond is unknown. When reaching the edge, the narrow passage welcomes all. The ocean is calm, the sand is covering the remnants of those who almost made it. The sun shines a light on the top of the cliffs. Not sure if this is dawn or dusk. There are no memories before this. There's a certain chill I get when watching this image. The Shore of Oblivion, a painting by German artist Eugene Bracht, is a personal favorite of mine. I found it a few years ago, and since then, from time to time, I tend to just see it for the sake of it. I enjoy it a lot. And because of that, it inspired me to want to do a little tribute to it. So, who am I? Well, just a musician with a casual interest in painting as well. And I recently thought I could do a little piece based on this painting and do what Mussorgsky did once upon a time. For those of you who don't know who Mussorgsky is, well, yeah, that guy. Turns out a while ago he made a collection of pieces based on the paintings of the artist Victor Horton. On an exhibition he visited in 1874. He basically composed an entire soundtrack for the whole thing, dedicating pieces for complete paintings, sometimes more than one movement per painting, but in general, just if it was in the exhibition, it had a piece of music that go with it. And it's really good. I really like that whole idea of, oh yeah, you're just gonna take this painting and make music out of it. That's pretty fun. And almost 150 years after that, I'm gonna rip him off, like so many people have done before me, just for the fun of it. By the way, don't get confused. I'm not a pianist. This thing might look pretty and sound amazing and cost me a pretty penny back when I bought it in like 2016. But I have no idea what I'm doing with this shit. Like, they try to taught me at college for 3 years. And I still don't know what the fuck I'm doing with it. But it is what it is. I have it now, and honestly, it works fantastic. Not only because making piano pieces can be actually a really relaxing exercise, it's kind of calming, kind of soft. This thing has the tendency of just sounding pretty by itself. Like, really, it's just really amazing. At the same time, since we're working with a piece that is from like the 1890s, 1880s, sort of, I kind of forgot at the moment, is around the same time as my boy the Impressionists, and I'm personally a really big fan of like Ravel and Debussy and Satie and those beautiful guys up there in France doing their beautiful like impressionist things on piano. So might as well take from what they were doing at that time to make a piece of that time. I don't know if that makes any sense. So when I started working for ideas for this whole thing, I came across this tiny little chord, which is A, F sharp, G, B. It has this like sad but mysterious character to it. If you're curious about like harmonic context or whatever, you can think of this as like E minor with an add 2. I like this closeness. There's little clusters. Little cluster. It's just one. For some reason, I really tend to gravitate around those when thinking about this whole thing. I mean, where are we? It's the middle of nowhere. So, I like the idea of minor seconds. Sounds fun to play around this. So, at first, we just get like, okay, this tiny chord. And to like make a, like the first general thing that I did, I started just playing it on arpeggios without a specific order. Instead of just down and up or up and down, I just went right, like different configurations of the same arpeggio. Just start working around it. Around the same time, I also started playing around with just a simple resolution. Which is basically just a G diminished into a G major. I don't know why it's. And if you want to play in like a lower octave, it sounds kind of cool, right? And then maybe you want to get a little bit more spicy and on a seventh, like in jazz, and resolve it to a max 7 with that F sharp. Ooh, I know, cool stuff. So this is where we are. We now have a beginning and an end. I like to define things as where do we start, where do we end. So I want to go from here and finish here, right? That's my beginning idea and my final idea. Now we just have to figure out a way to develop this into this. So how do you do that? Okay, so this will be a good time to get some order in this, otherwise it's gonna become a mess. And I know it because I already came up with a bunch of ideas and made a mess. So to explain it, I have a giant ass whiteboard. Now I'm not gonna explain myself. So as you can see, there's a bunch of squiggly lines in this bit, which kinda sorta represent the ideas that I'm trying to work with. I know we artists are such a pain in the ass. So we have the squares, which is basically like our starting idea with the chords and stuff. I made this, which sounds like that. This, which is a bunch of just arpeggios on top of each other and supposedly sounds good. I don't know, it sounds good in my head. And then the final ones that are basically the end resolution that I was talking about before. And between all of this, you may notice, yeah, what's up with that? So it came to me while I was working with all of these ideas that I still don't know what I'm trying to tell with this, which is a problem. Like, how am I expecting to have structure when I'm not even having, like, I don't know, a narrative thread maybe to work these things out? I know where I am, I know where I want to go, but I still don't know how that journey goes, right? What's the most important thing? And then while I was watching the painting once again, it came to me, hey, it's actually right here. Which, I mean, thanks, Eugene. If you look at the painting thoroughly, you can see that there's like a gap in between the cliffs. And every single time I watch the painting, I keep staring at that gap. Like it's calling, like it wants you to go there, and hey, that could be an interesting idea. If the painting, in my eyes, looks like some sort of limbo, and that little gap signifies like the entrance to another completely different place, I don't know, fucking heaven, hell, something like that, why not use that gap as like what you want to go to? Like my final motif can be worked around that gap, how it keeps calling, keeps pulling towards, well, not pulling towards, more like pulling you towards it. Yeah, that can be an interesting idea. Then the only thing I have to do is organize a little bit, finished up some melodies. But yeah, I have that. There is that. So I think we can work towards the goal of that little gap. Another thing that I noticed while I was working on this is that recurrence of minor seconds. It's probably more like a taste thing, in which I really like dissonance from time to time, and I noticed that a lot of those dissonance tend to come back every time I work on these little ideas. So at the end, the piece ended up being just those dissonance working towards the final motif, that final resolution of that G diminished to the G major. It's always going towards that. Of course, I think it's also important to mention how the rhythm helps the entire theme. It is a slow piece, kind of lethargic at some points, because the idea is that this place should have an atmosphere a little bit heavy, right? I think maybe if I gone a little bit more liberal with the amount of notes or every measure, or maybe metric changes, which I personally like a lot, maybe that would have detracted from the whole idea of transmitting that this place makes you feel a certain way, that being a little bit melancholic, a little bit nostalgic, even heavy in general. Did I succeed? I mean, I hope. But personally, I don't think I'm the best judge for that, since, you know, of course I like what I'm gonna do, right? Also, some other thing that came to me while I was doing that entire thought process of the cliffs is that now I'm not so convinced that I want the piece to end with this exact thing. I think a little bit of reincorporation could be useful, but like thematically, does it work? Doesn't make sense, really. But when you think about it, if this is like limbo or something, wouldn't it make sense that whenever someone passes through here, another person follows them, and it's like an eternal cycle? The reincorporation of the original motif could be a representation of that. Of, hey, this person just left, let's make space for the next one. I mean, I don't know about you, that sounds interesting. So that's what I'm working with. By the way, funny thing, while I was composing this piece and doing this video, I also started playing Signalis, because I'm a big fan of like horror stuff, and this seemed like a really interesting take on the horror, survival horror, like Silent Hill and Resident Evil type vibe, and I really like that. And if you knew the Shore of Oblivion before clicking on this video, there's a nice chance that you might have seen this painting in that game, because the guys, Rose Engine, the guys that made this game, decided to like make a bunch of references to other media like horror literature or painting, and they have like Brooklyn's Island of the Dead and the Shore of Oblivion. If you look at in some of the rooms, you can find the painting just laying around. And not only that, they even put it in the game, like physically. There's a 3D, full-on 3D modeled. I'm right here walking in the Shore of Oblivion. Like, it's what it's just funny to me. I was like writing this piece and started playing this game, and all of a sudden I'm here, and it's like, oh, that's really fucking cool. And yeah, like when I was recording that whole thing with the whiteboard, I put a reference to the game of This Place Intentionally Left Blank, just like as a fun reference to something I was playing at the time. I wasn't expecting that like a couple of days later I was gonna find this. It's just really cool. I don't know, I just wanted to share that. Anyway, while I was doing this thing, I also finished the piece. I threw it up in Ableton and used piano sound from like the free stuff that you get from Spitfire. If you want to get like free libraries that are not like the greatest thing in the world, but are pretty good for being free, you can try the labs. That's pretty cool. I'm rambling at this point, but yeah, it's we got a piece. We got a piece, and it's finished. I think what it is good in the amount of stuff it has. I always had this thing that I like to make longer pieces, 5-6 minute long, sometimes 10, even 15 minutes long, because you can really get into the idea of, oh, what if I do this? What if I do that? What if I add this? What if I add that? It's always like an exercise in more. I want to do everything, because maybe your brain is always like, I want to give it all in this, and that means putting as much material as you can. And sometimes making a shorter piece of 3 somewhat minutes can be a good exercise in restraint. One day maybe I'll do something that is way shorter than this. I've always wanted to try the maybe a 1 minute piece. That will be a challenge personally for me. But so far, I like where this ended up. Of course, at the end, I'm gonna put it. You guys can all just listen to it and tell me what you think. This is really the first time that I've done something like this. Honestly, I don't know what I'm doing. I don't know if this video will end up being something good or a complete turd. But I have fun. And maybe that's the important thing. So I will leave you with the piece, and hopefully also in the future with another one of these things, whatever the hell this is. So yeah, thank you for watching, and hope you have a wonderful day.
you.